Hello, my beautiful, gorgeous dancer, and welcome to another podcast episode of More Than Dance. Today, we're going to be talking about expectations, expectation setting, what to do when your expectations don't get met, and anything in between. So, if you're like me, you try not. I mean, we know better not to set expectations. We've heard this before. We know how setting expectations can set us up for disappointment. And yet somehow hidden deep in our subconscious, there's some kind of expectation that still is there. And one, we don't know why. How did it get there? And then most importantly, how to deal with it with the ease and eloquence of a dancer. So I'm going to share with you a couple of stories and then also just this mindset shift that I heard once and that I love. So I think this was in 2020. I mean, that was the year of basically expectations not being met, right? So I remember just walking outside and I was going to meet my friend for lunch and she also invited another friend. It turns out that she was running late and it just ended up being me and her friend. I don't know how we got on the topic of expectations, but he started telling me yeah, I don't have expectations for anything. And I was like, wow, how? Teach me your ways. I don't know how to do that. And he was like, yeah, I just for people, for things I'm doing, I just don't have expectations. And even now to have thought about this, not only in the back of my mind, but also very consciously, I think about this moment because can you imagine a life without expectations? Part of me could get really philosophical with this and think about it. I could picture having a Socratic seminar on it and it being a really fun discussion, whether or not it's a good or bad thing to have expectations. But for the sake of this podcast, I just want to talk about how cool it would be to just set your brain up to not have expectations and to, more importantly, not be let down by the expectation that you either A, set intentionally or unintentionally. And I think it's those unintentional expectation settings that really get us into trouble. So he had said to me, yeah, I just don't have expectations. It made me obviously want to delve deeper into this. It's a Buddhist principle. And even this quote that I've mentioned in the past before, and I wrote it down so I can just say it out. Suffering exists because of unfulfilled expectations. And the reason why that just hits me so hard is because how many of you have literally sat in suffering, even on a small scale suffer or a miniature suffer of an expectation that wasn't fulfilled? All of us, I think, right? And recently, Josh and I we just went to a wedding and the expectation, we were going to a wedding in Mexico. The expectation there is pretty obvious, right? Oh my gosh, Mexico, it's going to be nice and warm and sunny and that's going to be awesome. And it most certainly was awesome. And also it was really freezing and really, really cold, and navigating the expectation of, because, right, when you have the expectation of going to Mexico, you're thinking, okay, warm weather, bathing suits and this, you're not setting yourself up to also pack for the cold. However, there are several instances in there where I was like, oh man, where's my fur coat? But the thing is, how we get around those expectations is actually what is the most important. So today, I want to talk to you about this it's kind of a little game that Josh and I do. I mean, it's not really a game. It's kind of just this unintentional thought process that we have. So something that we realize a lot is that when we're going to someplace new or we're doing something fun, we end up having what appears to be more fun in that experience because we have no expectations for it at all. It's only when we're doing things that are pretty similar to another thing that we've done that was incredibly fun that we're oh, this wasn't as fun as the last thing that we did, or it's not as similar, or it's just different. And we have maybe a harder time realizing the fun in it. So the first step, I think, is to be able to look at these things that you're doing as new experiences always. Because when you're going into the experience as if it is a new experience, you have the expectation that it's a new experience and it's nothing that you have done before. When you haven't done anything before, it's you're just trying to figure it out. There's no thought process that's like, well, I wonder, like, da da da, because you don't have anything to compare it to. Every time that we go into something new, we're getting practice at a skill. And the skill is relinquishing our expectations and being able to like think new versus thinking new and old, because that's what expectations are. They're thinking of the new thing in the brain waves of the old thing. It's like putting a square peg in a round hole. So it's like we're practicing this idea of wanting to accept something new, yet we're thinking, I wonder if this will also be like the last time we went to Mexico. So really what the practice is like cutting off that memory and those expectations from another experience. So basically, it's kind of like your human nature, our human nature, to be so easily able to relate to things, to be able to make comparisons, and constantly like we're just like looking at everything that we're doing and making comparisons and making relations. Like we look at something and be like, oh, that's similar and that's different. Oh, that's similar to this thing that I did and that's different than this thing I did. And then that's how we figure things out. So to be really good at not having expectations, that would mean cutting off everything that you know and can relate to and just taking it all in for the first time. That's also saying to release your trauma from any of the situations that could be similar to. When you think of it, it's like, on a more suffering level, it's like obviously like if you have boat sickness or motion sickness, like your expectation when you go on the boat or you go on a car or whatever is to probably get sick because that's what happens to you. But like if you were able to forget everything about the old and just go and experience it for yourself, that's where it starts to get really philosophical and really like kind of interesting for me, because I'm like, ooh, like how would that change? Would it be the same? Are the expectations actually what's causing the situation to happen? When we're thinking about these things that we can practice, so how to get better at accepting reality without expectations is to get really good and practice the skill of putting yourself in new situations and being able to release the old, stop the comparison. We always talk about comparison anyway. We know that that's not a good thing. So stopping comparison in a situation like this is going to be helpful, because for me, why on earth would I expect to go to Mexico and be warm if I didn't have that preconceived thought of, yeah, you're going to Mexico, it's going to be warm? No, because some part of me would have said, you know what? Check the weather as you normally do for other things and make sure to read up on this. And like I would have done other things without that expectation, even though I didn't think that I had expectations. I literally didn't. I just was like, oh, cool. Like we're going to go. Da, da, da. And I was freezing. Right. So how can you accept reality and be really good at dismissing the old things? Well, one is to hold yourself more to a standard as opposed to an expectation. So, for example, the expectation is, I hope it's going to be like last time. The standard is, I hope that I can find the fun in this experience as I did last time. See how that's slightly different? It puts more of the control on you than the experience itself. I'm going to give you another example just so we can like be able to span this wider and so that you can take this home and like practice it and put it into your life. Let's rewind to 2011. I'm younger and I'm a little bit naive and I'm a little cocky. I have this, this vision of this dance studio being, what it is, basically what it is now, and then some. And then I also have this experience or these expectations that people enjoy taking my class. And I based that off of the fact that my classes were full of, in college, I would have like 100 people come to my classes 4 times a week. That expectation led me to think like, wow, you could open up a studio and have that many people too. Really funny expectation to have for someone who has never opened a business before. And in a way, it was just such a beautiful expectation to have, right? Because it is what ultimately gave me the confidence to open up the studio. Like, oh, I won't have a problem getting people. Like, I'll have people. No problem. I didn't realize like how much work was going to go into marketing myself in a way that like "Oh, you wanna take my class?" Like, it was actually kind of funny because it was like, "Oh, taking class with you at a gym is a lot easier than taking class with you from you at your studio." Like, it took a lot more to get the people to come in versus from the gym. Obviously, had I known that, I'm actually glad I didn't know that. So that's an example of when expectation. Oh, there we go. We did it. We had the Socratic seminar. That's when the expectation is beautiful to have because it will like give you the other direction that you need, maybe to cross off reality for a little bit and then do something that is so important to you, like opening the studio was for me. And that was the expectation that I had at my studio. I wanted to see if I could have and attain the same amount of numbers in my classes as I did at for other people's gyms, for my college, for every other class that I taught. So it was really eye-opening when that did not happen. And it happened for some classes, obviously, because um, I'm still in business. Um, and then in other classes, there'd be like one person that would come or zero. And it would happen like pretty frequently. And, that was really hard for me and really sad for me. And a person, that was really close to me at the time had said something like about his experience dancing. And he said that like he gave me this story of like he signed up for this class and they like canceled it or they were like wishy-washy with it and there was only two people in the workshop. I don't know. It was something about the fact that like he ended up not partaking in the class as much as he would have liked to because of the instructor and he would have like continued on renewing his like subscription or whatever. And like what that meant to me was giving and putting out the same energy for 50 to 100 people. And if two people showed up, giving that same energy to those two people, to those one people. And that thought still is carried with me because obviously, dancing for a living, it's tricky. Like things happen, like your body reacts to life. Like there's been surgeries, there's been injuries, there's just normal sickness. There's days where you're just mentally like not strong. And to get up and like show yourself as a dancer, that's asking a lot of your mental energy and also your physical energy, obviously. Like we know this as dancers. And then putting that into perspective for the people that literally took their time out of their day to spend with you for that moment. So that's always what I think of now. Like, okay, yes, the expectation. Okay, like yes, granted, it got me to have the confidence to open up the studio, and it also set me up for this standard that I started living by, which was no matter who attends my class, I'm going to deliver the same amount of energy as I would if there was one person to if there was 100 people. So that expectation, like now it's very different because I've had the ability to practice the new situation versus the old situation. The old situation for me would have been like, okay, well, I had 50 people, I had 100 people. Like, I want to give that energy. And the new situation is always arriving that every class is going to be different for me, no matter how many people and no matter who is in the class. It's always going to feel different. So it's always going to be a new situation and there's no comparison to it. Because if I'm going to be able to deliver that same energy and that same kind of newness to the people in the class, then I'm going to be able to deliver that same energy to the people that come to the class versus the people that are not there, right? There's going to be the same level of interest in my participants, the same level of dedication to my participants. And it's going to be exciting because to me, it's a new experience because no matter which class, no matter who is in the class, it's different because it's different. It's new because it's new. New choreography, it's new this. So I've trained my brain to think in this like less expectation way. And I've set myself up instead of this expectation, I've set myself up for a standard. And the standard is this: I'm going to deliver no matter what for my students. How many people? Doesn't matter to me, even though it used to, even though it felt like it did. So you, as someone who is mastering these high level, fifth dimension mental techniques so that you can thrive this is a great one that has always been able to help me, is being able to give yourself a standard to live by versus an expectation. So the next thing that's going to be helpful for you when setting your expectations is to be ready for something to just simply suck. Like, when do we ever just give ourselves permission for something to just suck? Like, it's totally like frowned upon in our society. Like, oh no, be happy. Like, oh no, be optimistic. Oh no, da 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 da. Like, no. Like, the truth is, this is what happened, and I didn't like it, and therefore it sucked. Like, and to just own that as your like beautiful, talented self, like, and just hold the space for it and realize it is what it is. And you couldn't control it. That's it. It sucked. Move on. And I feel like not being able to have that moment with yourself to be able like, I didn't like that. Like, even me, like, I'm like, oh my gosh, like, why was I so disappointed? I went to Mexico. Like, I should feel so excited and so happy. Like, and I do. And then also part of me is like, but like the weather really sucked and I'm sad about it. And so like, instead of me just being like, don't think it sucked or, you still went to Mexico, da, 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 I get to just actually be like, no, like it just kind of was a bummer. And like, that's okay. And it's a nicer way of being to yourself because one, it is like you acknowledging your authentic self, which is what I love to strive for and I love to help you strive for. And it's also like the ability to just be like, accept it and move on versus like hold in this energy for like, I don't know how many days and just be like not knowing what it is. It's that power of reflection and that power of like, oh, just knowing yourself deeper because when you're more aware, you're better. You're just better off because you're more aware. And the last little technique that I have for you for expectation setting is this element of surprise. And it's literally just allowing yourself to be unexpected and allowing it to be a surprise, allowing it to just catch you off guard and like being okay with it. And that friend that I told you about, like, I'm so confident that he literally like mastered this part because this is the magic part, right? It's like all the other stuff, it's like really in our control. This is the part of it, the technique that it's still not in your control and you're okay with it. The other stuff is like, oh, I accept that like I'm in control of my thoughts and what I think and da da da, and I'm in control of practicing the unexpected and blah, blah, blah. But this one's like, be okay with the surprise. So it's still like completely out of our control. And it's the mental frame of mind of being okay with the expectation being not what you expected. So I now realize, and this is like another funny thing about expectations, like I expected to come into this podcast and just talk about my few things and then, kind of move on. And now that I've like discussed this and opened it up, I'm like, wow, this is deeper than I ever thought it could be. And I have so much more to share on this. So I'm excited to maybe have a part 2 of expectations and expectation settings and like really understanding like, what is it about it? How do they still sneak in there? So and this is like the last little thing that I want to leave you on is just this like little thought of expectations are your future control disguised as hope. So something in us, something innately within us as human wants us to be able to control what we can. And the point is we can't control everything. So an expectation is us hoping that we can, is the control part of us literally having hope to be able to control the expectation. So let's just recap real quickly our strategies for expectations. 1, living in the new. So understanding that like you can practice being in new situations and detaching from old situations so that there's no comparison and there's no expectation there. 2, obviously, we know this one, being in control of your own experience and what you can actually control. So your thoughts and like the way you are and what you need to work on, like patience, for example. The next one would obviously be that whole thought of standards versus expectations. So the ability to put a standard of living on it versus an expectation. So I am going to live by this principle that I stand by in this situation that ends up being not what I expected. And lastly, just keeping yourself in check and knowing that these expectations are going to come up and surprise you even when you know better. Because what expectations do, again, I'm going to read that little quote again. Suffering exists because of unfulfilled expectations. So it's literally allowing us to live in a place of disappointment. And if we are living in a place of disappointment, obviously, we aren't as happy as we can be. So the sooner that we can master this, the sooner that we can live in every situation with ultimate happiness. So I hope that this helped you today. And I know for sure, even after this situation, that expectations is something that I can and will continue to work on. Less about the expectation and more about the release of the expectation, even in those sneaky situations. So I wish you the very best of luck with mastering the release of expectations with me. And I will see you on the dance floor.